Hey Ober Sports, Jacob Ober here, coming to you with my Big Ten Championship preview for this Saturday's matchup on December 2nd between the Wisconsin Badgers and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Wisconsin at 12-0 and Ohio State at 10-2. The game will be held on December 2nd at 8 p.m. 7 Central Time at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. College football playoff rankings for both of these teams. Wisconsin comes in at number 4, Ohio State at number 8. Football Power Index by ESPN. Ohio State is ranked number 2 with a rating of 26.2. Wisconsin comes in at number 8 with a rating of 21.3. The AP poll puts Wisconsin at number 3 and Ohio State at number 8. The coaches poll puts Ohio State at number 7 and Wisconsin at number 3. Now I'm going to get into some strengths and weaknesses for each of these teams here. Some of Wisconsin's strengths, their run game especially, is the big thing on offense for them. They have Jonathan Taylor, a Heisman candidate with 1,806 yards rushing, with a legitimate chance to break 2,000 in the next 2 or 3 games, or even 4 if they make it that far. The Wisconsin team has a big, powerful offensive line, which is going to play a big role in this game against Ohio State's front four. They have one of the nation's top defensive units. This is one of the best Wisconsin defensive units this program has ever had. Their linebacking core, especially led by T.J. Edwards and Ryan Connolly, is one of the most talented and disciplined I've ever seen in Wisconsin football history. Really, they're fantastic. T.J. Edwards is a finalist for the Dick Butkus Award, which is given to the nation's top linebacker. Ryan Connolly, one of the better linebackers in the Big Ten. This team is a very well-coached team. It responds well to adversity. And trailing early doesn't really faze them, as evident by multiple early deficits this season that turned into blowouts. Some weaknesses of Wisconsin: their passing game, not bad, but very average, and clearly the weak point of the offense. Their inexperienced receiving core lost Quintez Cephas a few weeks back, and that might hurt them in this game. They're prone to turnovers at times, which isn't really typical of a 12-0 team, but Wisconsin has been able to get by with turning the ball over as much as they do. Alex Hornibrook has 13 interceptions on the year. Oftentimes he'll sail passes. He doesn't usually underthrow it. He usually throws it too high for the receiver. The secondary hasn't really been tested this season. The last true test the secondary has had was in the Big Ten Championship against Penn State, and we remember that, where Trace McSorley went off in the second half and absolutely torched this Wisconsin secondary. Wisconsin has not had a game against any opponent inside the top 20, and that means that Wisconsin is relatively not battle-tested this season. We don't really know how they're going to perform against a top 10 team when they really haven't faced anything close to that this season. It's going to be interesting to see how well they do. Ohio State's strengths, they want to run a very well-run spread offense led by the experienced J.T. Barrett, who is entering his 5th year as a senior, or he is a 5th-year senior, I should say. Their running game led by J.K. Dobbins, who has 1,190 rushing yards this season, and Mike Weaver, who has 602 rushing yards this season. A very well-balanced attack of pass and run for this Ohio State offense. They have an obvious advantage at quarterback in Barrett, who has 33 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. He's the more experienced player than Hornibrook. The Ohio State offensive line is big, fast, and physical, and they might give this Wisconsin front four some fits. They have a strong, quick front four led by Nick Bosa, Sam Hubbard, and Tyquan Lewis. Denzel Ward is one of the top cornerbacks in the nation for Ohio State, and he could give some trouble to Danny Davis or A.J. Taylor, depending on which one starts. I'm not sure who's going to be number one. And above all, this Ohio State team is battle-tested. They played some very good teams this season, including Oklahoma, Penn State, Michigan, etc., etc. Some weaknesses of Ohio State, there's not many, by the way. Their secondary, outside of Ward and safety Damon Webb, is pretty young, but they are well-coached. Their linebacking core especially, this is the weak point of the Ohio State team. The linebacking core is very weak, very inexperienced. They are susceptible to play-action passes. They have a hard time keeping with tight ends, which could play in Wisconsin's favor with one of the best tight ends in the country in Troy Fumagalli. And they're not really spectacular in any facet of the game, although they are a very well-balanced team. Moving on here to game preview. Wisconsin's going to have its hands full with Ohio State, that's no question. This is clearly the best team Wisconsin has faced all year. Wisconsin or this Ohio State team, as I just listed, they have few glaring weaknesses on either side of the ball. They really do. There's not one area where they really truly struggle besides the linebacking core. The one area that Wisconsin could exploit is the linebacking core in this game, which this plays very well into Wisconsin's style of football. If there's any area of the game that was Ohio State would want to be Wisconsin would want Ohio State to be weakened as the linebacking core, because Wisconsin is such a good team at using play action passage, and it seems to fool the linebackers pretty good. And the tight ends, they especially have some struggles with the tight ends. And Troy Fumagalli is one of the top tight ends in the country, so Wisconsin needs to get him involved early and often. The success of the run game is going to come down to the battle at the line of scrimmage, where Wisconsin's offensive line and Ohio State's defensive line are almost evenly matched. If the offensive line of Wisconsin can consistently win at the line of scrimmage, I think Taylor's going to have a good chance at having a huge game, because once he gets to the second level, he makes easy work of those defensive backs. On defense, though, Wisconsin does a good job at sending the right blitzes at the right times. And the Wisconsin defense should be able to get to Barrett a few times. But my big fear is that Wisconsin may get a little bit too blitz happy and allow Ohio State to burn their secondary if the blitzes aren't getting home. In which case, the batters will have to turn to a four-man rush, which I am also concerned might not get enough pressure on J.T. Barrett. Wisconsin's secondary hasn't really faced a good passing attack since last season against Penn State in the Big Ten Championship, where Trace McSorley torched them for about 400 yards passing. This secondary really does have speed, but it remains to be seen whether or not they've learned from last year's debacle in Indianapolis. Wisconsin does have a significant advantage at linebacker and a very powerful front seven, though, so don't expect the Buckeyes to run all over them. The Badgers, they're one of the best teams at stopping the run, and I mean, this running game is explosive for Ohio State, but I just don't see a way that the running game takes over the game for Ohio State, because if it did, then Wisconsin would be in huge trouble, because they need to control their time of possession in this game. Ohio State's receiving core, this is going to be a big matchup, the Wisconsin secondary versus the Ohio State receiving core. It's not nearly as talented as it was in 2014 when it had Devin Smith and they beat Wisconsin 59-0. But it's definitely no pushover and nothing that the Wisconsin should be taking lightly. Far better than anything UW has faced so far. Overall, though, these are two relatively evenly matched teams who run different style offenses. Ohio State has some talent, a lot of talent actually, but nobody executes better than Wisconsin, and so far no Power 5 team has won better than Wisconsin. Paul Chryst and Urban Meyer, the coaching matchup, they're both excellent coaches, but Chryst has taken this team from the depths of a 59-0 loss the last time these two teams met in the Big Ten Championship, and also Gary Anderson's last game here, to the heights of a 12-0 season and 3 straight bowl wins, including a Cotton Bowl win last year. In my opinion, the coaching advantage, although some may very much disagree with me, I think Paul Chryst is a better coach. The keys to the game for the Badgers, really the big key, in my opinion, win the line of scrimmage battle. That's gonna be the deciding factor in whether or not Wisconsin has to throw 30 or 40 times or Taylor has a monster game, and that is a substantial difference. That could be the difference between a big loss for Wisconsin and a big win for Wisconsin. If they can get that play-action pass game working to Fumagalli, Newville, and Peniston and the tight ends, that would be really big for Wisconsin because it gives them a lot of balance. Don't turn the ball over. That's also a big point for Wisconsin. On defense, they need to bottle up the run, obviously, and if they can get pressure on Barrett with four-man rushes, they'll be in business. They don't want to let him stand back and with all day to throw, because they would get killed. The keys to the game for Ohio State, like Wisconsin, win the line of scrimmage battle, force Wisconsin to throw 30 or 40 times, which is not what they want to do, exploiting their weakness at wide receiver and quarterback. Protect Barrett, give him time to pick apart the Wisconsin secondary in the way McSorley did last season. If I'm Ohio State, I'm definitely using that game last season in the Big Ten Championship as a blueprint for this game against Wisconsin, because this team hasn't changed that much from one season to another. So unless Wisconsin has learned their lesson, they're going to have another rough time if Ohio State can do the same thing that Penn State did last season in the second half of the Big Ten Championship game. My prediction, it's all going to come down to the line of scrimmage battle. It's going to be the deciding factor whether or not Wisconsin either has to throw 40 times or Taylor has a monster day, which, like I said, it's like night and day for the Badgers. If we have to throw 40 times, they'll probably lose by a big margin. If Taylor has a monster day, we'll probably win by a big margin. Wisconsin was able to handle two stout defensive lines in Iowa and Michigan, and I think they'll have it in them to handle Ohio State's as well. And to the people who might be saying Wisconsin isn't much of a different team than they were in 2014, that's absolutely not the case. This game is not going to be anything like the 59-0 loss they had that season. It's going to be so much better of a game, in my opinion. These two teams are so evenly matched, and remember, Wisconsin, they don't nearly have the defense they have this year. They didn't nearly have the defense they had this year. Their quarterback's better, I think. Their coaching is miles better. Gary Anderson was really not a good coach, in my opinion, and that was ultimately the defeat of the Badgers, who came in uninspired and lacking the will to win. And Paul Chryst isn't going to let that happen in this game. I guarantee it. So long as Wisconsin isn't being forced into some second and third and longs and they have to throw, they're forced to throw, this game's going to be in their control, and as long as it's in their control, they're going to come out victorious. I'm picking Wisconsin 28, Ohio State 24. And really, that's all I have to say in this preview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, this is the most extensive research I've ever done into a game, into a preview for that matter. It's going to be a great game. I'm going there myself. It's going to be fantastic. This could be one of the biggest games in Wisconsin football history, one of the biggest wins in Wisconsin football history. And I'm going to be documenting the whole thing, and I'm going to have a video coming up after it if the Badgers win on my experience there. And it's going to be just fantastic, a fantastic atmosphere, and really everything you love about college football. A chance for both teams to get into the playoff. Not so much Ohio State, but Wisconsin, the Cinderella team, even though they're undefeated. It's going to be a fantastic matchup, and I just can't wait. But anyways, guys, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, you guys. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to have any other differing opinions or comments on the game itself, be sure to leave those in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys next time.